Welcome to the deep dive. For most of us, the 4th of July, it brings up these really vivid images, right? Fireworks, parades, barbecues, family time.
Yeah, it's deeply ingrained. A national celebration marking the Declaration of Independence.
Exactly. And Indianapolis in 2025, they were all set to embrace that spirit. Big plans, lots of celebrations.
They really were.
But then in the early hours of July 5th, 2025, just as everything was quieting down, that whole picture just shattered. A truly devastating act of gun violence cast this terrible shadow over the holiday. So our mission here in this deep dive is to sift through a stack of sources. We've got reports from WTHR, the local news station there, official statements, basically trying to pull out the key facts, the insights about what happened.
Right, to understand the context, the tragedy itself, and maybe what comes next.
Yeah, we want to understand the holiday spirit in Indy before this happened, then detail the tragic shooting itself, look at how the community reacted right away, and, talk about the bigger picture, public safety, the future of the holiday there.
It's unfortunately a necessary look, how something meant for unity can just flip into grief so fast, and what we can maybe learn from it.
Okay, so let's set the scene first. Think back to, John Adams' original idea for Independence Day.
Cannons and readings, right?
Yeah, exactly. Cannons, public readings of the Declaration. And over time, that evolved. Became the fireworks, the rockets' red glare, barbecues, festivals, all the things we know now.
And Indy really went all out in 2025.
They really did. The main thing was Downtown Indy's 4th Fest. It was back for its 3rd year. Huge street festival starting at 6 p.m. You had food trucks, ice cream, drinks, a kids zone.
Sounds like a classic 4th celebration.
Totally. And live music, too. Headline acts like Living Proofs, Pavel and Direct Contact, and then the big finale, obviously the fireworks.
Right.
A spectacular 20-minute show. Launched from the top of the 500 N Meridian building around 10 p.m., all synchronized to patriotic music.
Like huge crowds, I imagine.
Tens of thousands, yeah. Prime spots were the Indiana War Memorial Grounds, American Legion Mall. And that wasn't even all of it. You had fireworks at Victory Field, the Star-Spangled Symphony over at Conner Prairie. The whole city was celebrating.
But, when you look at these huge, joyful gatherings, they bring people together, which is great. But they also, they come with challenges.
Like what?
Well, you've got the fireworks issue, obviously. Legal, illegal, it's everywhere. But then you add in the unfortunate reality of firearms being prevalent. It creates a complex situation, potential for things to escalate. And it definitely puts a strain on law enforcement, crowd control, responding quickly.
Yeah.
It's tough.
And tragically, that complex environment, that sort of charged atmosphere, it became the backdrop for a nightmare.
Yeah.
Just hours after those amazing fireworks ended. Early morning, Saturday, July 5th, tragedy strikes. So what did the initial reports say? How did the chaos actually begin?
Okay, so the timeline we get from IMPD, that's the Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Department, and from WTHR News, it's pretty stark. Officers were first called out to a disturbance. This was near Washington and Meridian Street, around 1:27 a.m.
Okay, a general disturbance.
Right. But then, almost immediately, they get word of shots fired, just half a block away, near South Illinois and West Washington Streets.
Wow. So close. And it escalated that quickly, from a disturbance to active gunfire. What did the officers find when they got there?
They found multiple people hit by gunfire right away. IMS medics, the emergency medical services, they were already there giving aid.
And the toll.
It was devastating. 7 people were shot in total. And tragically, 2 teenage boys died. A 16-year-old, he was pronounced dead right there at the scene.
Oh, my God.
And a 15-year-old boy, he died later at the hospital.
Just kids.
Yeah. The other 5 victims, they ranged in age from 16 to 21, all hospitalized. 1 actually got themselves to the hospital.
The reaction from law enforcement, you could feel the frustration, the anger. Police Chief Christopher Bailey.
Yeah, he was visibly angry, heartbroken too, you could tell.
He called the violence completely unacceptable and unnecessary. And he had some really strong words for parents.
He did. He said, hundreds of unsupervised kids down here. We are not your children's keepers. You are. And parents and guardians have got to step up. A kid is dead tonight.
Wow. Just raw emotion there. Did he give any other details about that night?
Yeah, Chief Bailey mentioned that about 20 people were arrested overnight for various reasons, not necessarily directly tied to the shooting itself. And they recovered multiple firearms from the area.
Okay.
But he was clear it wasn't immediately known if those specific guns were used in the shooting. He also pointed out something else pretty alarming. Even before the mass shooting happened, police had already confiscated guns from 2 other juveniles downtown earlier that night.
Including an assault rifle, right?
Including an assault rifle, yeah.
Yeah.
It really paints a picture of, well, the situation police were dealing with.
Mayor Joe Hogsett, he also responded quickly. Condolences, condemned the violence, and he announced immediate steps, right? Like enforcing the youth curfew downtown more strictly.
Exactly, trying to regain some control.
So what about the investigation itself? Where did things stand shortly after?
Well, as of July 6th, the day after, the motive was still unclear. No specific suspect or suspects had been identified officially, although they did detain 7 individuals for questioning.
But their involvement wasn't confirmed.
Not confirmed, no. IMPD was heavily relying on surveillance footage from the area, and the city announced plans to add even more security cameras downtown and also bring in the Indiana State Police for assistance.
All right.
And it's crucial to add, this wasn't happening in a vacuum. This specific incident was horrific, but that whole 4th of July weekend in 2025, it saw multiple shootings across the country.
I remember hearing about Philadelphia, Chicago.
Yeah, mass shootings reported in those cities, too. And even in Indianapolis itself, the weekend before the 4th had been incredibly violent. 7 people killed, 9 injured in various incidents. So it points to this broader troubling trend.
The community reaction in Indianapolis, WTHR reported it was immediate. Grief, anger, calls for action. Understandable frustration, right? The celebration turns into this senseless violence, and the victims are so young.
Absolutely. And Chief Bailey's comments about parents, about accountability, they really struck a chord.
You think so?
Yeah, it seemed to resonate widely. It tapped into these existing concerns about, large groups of unsupervised young people downtown and the accessibility of firearms. You saw community groups, faith leaders mobilizing almost instantly, offering support, organizing vigils, trying to find ways to heal and, demand change.
That collective responsibility piece seems key.
It often is after something like this.
So the immediate response included calls for policy changes, too. Mayor Hogsett pushing for stricter curfew enforcement. Can you remind us what the curfew rules actually are there?
Sure. So under Indiana state law, for kids aged 15 to 17, they generally can't be out in public between 1 a.m. and 5 a.m. on weekends. And it's after 11 p.m. Sunday through Thursday.
Okay.
For kids under 15, it's even stricter. Can't be out after 11 p.m. or before 5 a.m. on any day.
Right. What's the general idea behind curfews like that? And, do they actually work?
Well, the aim is pretty straightforward. Reduce the opportunity for young people to be involved in or become victims of late-night crime. But their effectiveness, that's always up for debate.
How so?
Some argue they just shift the problem, move it to different times or places. Others point out they can be really hard to enforce consistently. And beyond the curfew, city-county council members there in Indy suggested they might look at other local rules.
Like what?
Potentially things like regulations for food trucks operating late at night. But you also had community advocates pushing back a bit, saying, look, enforcement is one thing, but we need long-term solutions, meaning investments in education, mental health services, programs to reduce poverty, creating real opportunities for at-risk youth. They argue, quite reasonably, that violence like this often stems from deeper social, economic, and systemic issues.
Right, it's complex. It's not just about policing the immediate situation.
Exactly. There's research, for instance, that often shows a link between sustained funding for youth programs and actual drops in violence over time. It suggests law enforcement is critical, yes, but it can't be the only answer for long-term safety.
And Chief Bailey's comment again about hundreds of unsupervised kids downtown. It really does make you think about, where are the safe spaces? What about communal supervision, especially late at night?
It's a huge question.
Right.
So if we pull back and look at the bigger picture from that point, say July 6th, 2025, what are the really critical questions still hanging in the air?
Okay, yeah. What were they?
Well, first, the motive. What actually caused the shooting? Was it a specific fight that escalated? Was it random violence, gang-related? Without knowing the why, it's hard for the community to process.
Right. Understanding is part of healing.
Exactly. Second, the suspects. Okay, 7 people were detained, guns were found. But who actually pulled the triggers that killed those 2 teenagers? Getting justice relies on the ongoing investigation, the surveillance footage, witnesses.
Yeah, accountability is crucial.
And finally, the long-term impact. How does something like this change a city's relationship with a major holiday like the 4th of July? Will future celebrations in Indianapolis see, much heavier security? Will people gather differently? Will it actually lead to that renewed focus on youth programs we talked about? And if so, what will they really look like in practice?
So, wrapping this up, The 4th of July, 2025, in Indianapolis. It's going to be remembered, sadly, not just for the fireworks, but for this profound tragedy. A really stark, painful reminder that, the pursuit of liberty, happiness, everything the holiday stands for. It feels
Yeah.
pretty far away for some people when faced with this kind of gun violence.
Yeah. And the immediate reactions we saw from WTHR reporters on the ground, from Chief Bailey, from Mayor Hogsett, they quickly became part of that larger national conversation. About youth supervision, yes, but also about guns, about societal factors. Chief Bailey's emphasis on parental accountability, it really highlights this idea of shared community responsibility.
Hmm.
And the whole event just underscores this urgent need for, well, for comprehensive approaches. It can't just be about law enforcement, right? It has to include looking at city ordinances, maybe using more surveillance, definitely building better police-community collaboration.
And crucially, that call for sustained investment. Programs offering positive alternatives for young people, addressing those root causes like socioeconomic disparities, and promoting responsible gun ownership too.
All of it has to be part of the conversation.
So, thinking about all this,
Mm.
what does it mean for you listening right now? Consider that contrast. A national day of celebration and then this intensely local tragedy. What kinds of questions does that bring up for your own community? How do you balance celebrating that fundamental right with the absolute need to keep everyone safe, especially during big public events, especially for young people?
Yeah, how can communities bridge that gap between cherished festive traditions and preventing these absolutely heart-wrenching events? What role could you or should you play in that conversation where you live?